Have you ever felt like you don't deserve your achievements? Like at any moment, someone will discover you're a fraud? Today, I'll show you how to eliminate those internal voices sabotaging you using the transformative power of self-affirmations that Napoleon Hill discovered almost a century ago. That feeling that paralyzes you, that makes you doubt your abilities and constantly whispers that you're not enough, has a name: imposter syndrome. And though you might believe you're the only one suffering from it, let me tell you something important. The most brilliant minds in history have struggled with exactly the same feeling. The difference between those who succumb to this mental trap and those who achieve greatness lies in one thing: mastery of their thoughts. Napoleon Hill discovered this after interviewing more than 500 of the most successful people of his time. He observed a constant pattern. Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. This seemingly simple phrase hides the most powerful secret to overcoming imposter syndrome. Your thoughts create your reality. If you constantly tell yourself you're an imposter, your mind will find evidence to confirm it. But when you reprogram your thoughts, everything changes. The first step to becoming immune to imposter syndrome is recognizing that negative thoughts are intruders, not part of your identity. Each time that critical voice appears telling you that you don't deserve your achievements, that you've been lucky, or that soon they'll discover you're a fraud, you must identify it for what it is: a lie. Hill stated that every adversity carries with it the seed of an equivalent or greater benefit. Even these doubts about yourself can become the fuel that drives your transformation. Think about this. How many opportunities have you let pass because that voice convinced you that you weren't ready? How many times have you minimized your achievements by attributing them to luck or external factors? It's time to change that narrative. Do this exercise right now. Identify a recent achievement you feel proud of and, instead of minimizing it, specifically recognize what skills, knowledge, or efforts of yours made it possible. Feel it deeply. This isn't arrogance, it's recognizing your truth. The man who feels inferior attracts inferiority, Hill said. When you accept and feed your insecurities, they grow and strengthen. It's a cycle you must consciously break, and the most powerful tool to do so lies in the power of your internal words, in the self-affirmations you repeat daily. Don't underestimate the power of what you tell yourself when no one is listening. Those intimate conversations shape your reality more than any external influence, and it's precisely in the power of self-affirmations where you'll find the first key to freeing yourself from imposter syndrome. The language you use with yourself not only reflects your deepest beliefs, but creates and strengthens them. It's time to transform that internal dialogue, and that's what we'll discuss in the next point. One of Napoleon Hill's most powerful revelations was understanding that the subconscious mind accepts and acts upon any thought you repeatedly impose on it, whether positive or negative. What you sow in your subconscious mind, you will reap in your reality, he explained. This is the scientific basis for why self-affirmations work. They literally reprogram the thought patterns ingrained in your subconscious. The problem is that most people with imposter syndrome have been repeating negative affirmations without realizing it. I'm not good enough. I don't deserve to be here, I've just been lucky. These phrases, constantly repeated, become limiting beliefs that your mind accepts as absolute truths. Have you noticed how these negative affirmations automatically appear at critical moments, precisely when you need confidence the most? What few people understand is that you can use exactly the same mechanism but in your favor. Positive self-affirmations, when performed with the right emotion and conviction, have the power to completely rewrite your mental programming. It's not magic, it's psychological science. Hill discovered this long before modern neuroscience confirmed it. The subconscious is more susceptible to influence by thoughts mixed with emotion or feeling. Here's a truth you need to understand. Your mind doesn't distinguish between what is real and what you vividly imagine with emotion. When you repeat an affirmation like, "I have the necessary skills to overcome any challenge in my path," and feel it as true, your brain begins to reconnect neurons to align with that new belief. It's a gradual but inexorable process that Hill called mental chemistry. How can you apply this in your daily life? Start by creating 3 customized affirmations that directly counteract your biggest doubts. If you feel you don't deserve your achievements, repeat every morning. I recognize and accept my talents and abilities. My achievements are the direct result of my effort and capacity. If you fear others will discover you're a fraud, affirm, I bring unique value in everything I do. My perspective and experience are valuable. The crucial part here isn't just repeating the words, but feeling them. Hill insisted that faith is a state of mind that can be induced or created through affirmation or repeated instruction to the subconscious. When you repeat your affirmations, visualize concrete examples that demonstrate their truth. Feel confidence flowing through your body. Smile. This combination of words, mental images, and emotions is what Hill called the formula for self-confidence. There's a perfect time to practice your self-affirmations, just before falling asleep and upon waking. At these times, your mind is more receptive to reprogramming, as brainwaves are in a more susceptible state. Take 5 minutes each night and each morning to repeat your affirmations with absolute conviction. After 30 days, you'll notice that these new beliefs begin to naturally manifest in your thoughts and actions. Many people abandon the practice of affirmations too soon because they expect immediate results. Hill warned about this. Persistence is an essential factor in the procedure of transmuting desire into its monetary equivalent. The same applies to transforming insecurity into unshakable confidence. Give the process time. Your mind has been strengthening those negative beliefs for years. You'll need consistency to dismantle them. Have you noticed how some people seem to have natural confidence while you struggle with constant doubts? It's not that they don't have moments of insecurity, it's that they've learned, consciously or unconsciously, to counter them with positive internal dialogues. You can deliberately develop this same skill through self-affirmations. A powerful aspect you should incorporate into your affirmations is gratitude. Napoleon Hill discovered that gratitude has a vibrational frequency that neutralizes fear and doubt. Include in your affirmations phrases like, I am deeply grateful for my talents and achievements. Each day I become a wiser and more capable version of myself. Gratitude for what you already are and have creates a mental state of abundance that naturally repels imposter syndrome, which feeds on scarcity. If you really want to accelerate your transformation, I recommend this exercise. Write your 3 main affirmations on small cards you can carry with you. Each time you feel a wave of doubt or insecurity, take out these cards and read them aloud. Over time, this practice will create a conditioned reflex where negative thoughts automatically trigger your self-affirmation system, interrupting the imposter cycle before it can establish itself. Remember these words from Hill. Any idea, plan, or purpose can be placed in the mind through repetition of thought. This means you have the power to choose what programming you accept. Self-affirmations are your declaration of mental independence, your refusal to continue living under the tyranny of limiting thoughts you never consciously chose. But words alone are not enough. To truly overcome imposter syndrome, you need more than affirmations. You need tangible evidence that supports your new beliefs. And that's where the second powerful strategy Napoleon Hill discovered comes into play. The personal success inventory, and that's what we'll discuss in the next point. Have you ever stopped to consider that you might be ignoring the clearest evidence of your competence? Napoleon Hill observed that people with the greatest tendency to suffer from imposter syndrome share a common characteristic. They have a selective memory that filters out their successes and amplifies their failures. The man who cannot believe in himself will never be a winner, Hill stated. And much of that problem lies in not objectively recognizing what you've already accomplished. This is where the personal success inventory becomes a transformative tool. Hill recommended his students maintain what he called a record of personal triumphs, a meticulous documentation of every achievement, regardless of its size. This record isn't an exercise in vanity, but a scientific antidote to the cognitive distortion that feeds your sense of being an imposter. The human mind has a natural tendency toward negativity bias. We're evolutionarily programmed to give more weight to negative experiences than positive ones as a survival mechanism. This inclination makes it much easier to remember criticism you received years ago than praise you received yesterday. Sound familiar? This distortion is especially pronounced in those suffering from imposter syndrome. Start creating your personal inventory of successes today. Take a notebook dedicated exclusively to this purpose and divide your life into stages: childhood, adolescence, early adulthood, and so on. For each stage, note all the achievements you can remember, from learning to ride a bicycle to getting your first job promotion. Don't judge the importance of these achievements, simply record them all. The dominant thoughts of a person determine their mental state and destiny, Hill taught. When you regularly review your inventory of successes, you're literally changing your dominant thoughts from doubt to evidence-based confidence. This isn't self-deception, it's correcting a distorted perception. What makes this method particularly effective is that it directly combats one of the central mechanisms of imposter syndrome: erroneous attribution. When you suffer from this syndrome, you tend to attribute your successes to external factors: luck, help from others, favorable circumstances, and your failures to internal factors: lack of ability, intelligence, or preparation. Your success inventory will force you to recognize patterns of competence that contradict this distorted narrative. To maximize the impact of this practice, add a crucial step. Next to each achievement, specifically identify what skills, strengths, or personal qualities contributed to that success. Was it your perseverance, your creativity in solving problems, your ability to work under pressure? This explicit connection between your personal characteristics and your results makes it much harder for your mind to dismiss your achievements as mere coincidence. Napoleon Hill insisted that knowledge is not power until it is organized into a definite plan of action. Your success inventory is precisely that: the systematic organization of knowledge about your capabilities as a basis for new self-confidence. It's not just a retrospective exercise, but an active tool for your continuous development. Update this inventory weekly. Every Sunday, take a few minutes to reflect on the ending week and record even small successes: a presentation that went well, a problem you solved effectively, a moment when you stood up for your ideas. Over time, you'll be creating a compendium of evidence so compelling that your imposter syndrome will have less and less room to operate. An additional technique that enhances this exercise is what Hill called the mastermind. Share your inventory with a trusted person. Often others can point out achievements that you have minimized or completely forgotten. This external perspective can be invaluable in counteracting your self-directed negativity bias. Have you noticed how the most successful people seem to have an accurate memory of their previous achievements? It's no coincidence. They've learned, as Hill taught, that your ability to use the principle of self-mastery depends on your capacity to control your emotions and use them constructively. The success inventory gives you exactly that: fact-based control over the negative emotions associated with imposter syndrome. Here's a challenge for you. For the next 30 days, before going to bed, write down at least 3 things you did well that day. They can be significant professional achievements or acts as simple as staying calm in a tense situation. This simple habit will begin to retrain your attention to notice your own competencies in real time, not just retrospectively. Every adversity carries with it the seed of an equivalent or greater benefit, is one of Hill's most profound teachings. Even your moments of doubt and insecurity can be transformed into catalysts for greater self-knowledge through this process of conscious documentation. Each time imposter syndrome appears, it's an invitation to update and review your success inventory. But documenting your past and present successes is only part of the equation. To truly free yourself from imposter syndrome, you need to transform the way you interpret and respond to your failures. And this is where we find Napoleon Hill's third revolutionary strategy: the redefinition of failure. And that's what we'll discuss in the next point. Fear of failure is perhaps the most potent fuel for imposter syndrome. You convince yourself that any mistake will confirm what you've secretly feared, that you're not up to the task. However, Napoleon Hill discovered something revolutionary when studying hundreds of exceptionally successful people. Failure is a temporary defeat, not a permanent breakdown. This simple redefinition of failure is one of the greatest differentiators between those who succumb to imposter syndrome and those who overcome it. People with imposter syndrome tend to see every stumble as irrefutable evidence of their incompetence. A report with errors, a presentation that didn't go as expected, even a simple critical comment can trigger a spiral of self-doubt. Sound familiar? This catastrophic interpretation of failure is precisely what you must dismantle. Hill observed that great innovators and leaders shared a common characteristic. They had developed a constructive relationship with failure. They didn't see it as proof of their incompetence, but as valuable information on their path to mastery. Thomas Edison, one of the subjects Hill studied, didn't see his thousands of failed attempts to create the electric light bulb as failures, but as discoveries of ways that don't work. To overcome imposter syndrome, you must implement what Hill called mental alchemy, transforming the negative perception of failure into a tool for accelerated learning. Start by changing your internal vocabulary. The next time something doesn't go as expected, instead of telling yourself, "I've failed," say, "I've discovered an approach that doesn't produce the results I'm seeking." This small semantic change has a profound impact on how your brain processes the experience. Knowledge is power only if it is organized into definite plans of action, Hill taught. Following this principle, create a record of lessons learned to complement your success inventory. Each time you face a setback, document 1. What happened objectively? 2. What worked despite the overall outcome? 3. What didn't work? And most importantly, 4. What you'll do differently next time. This systematic process disarms the power of imposter syndrome in 2 ways. First, it separates your identity from the outcome. The project didn't work versus I am a failure. Second, it transforms each negative experience into a tangible asset, applicable knowledge that increases your chances of future success. People with imposter syndrome often magnify their mistakes far beyond their true impact. Hill noticed this pattern and advised practicing proportional perspective. Did that error in your presentation really ruin your entire career? Did that project that didn't meet expectations really define your entire professional ability? Ask yourself, how important will this be in a year, in 5 years? A powerful exercise is what Hill called reverse visualization. Imagine that 5 years have passed since your current failure. Visualize yourself looking back at this moment and recognizing how that apparent setback put you on a path of greater growth and opportunity. This expanded temporal perspective dramatically diminishes the emotional burden of the present failure. Every adversity carries with it the seed of an equivalent or greater benefit. This phrase from Hill isn't empty optimism, it's an operational instruction. Your task is to consciously seek that seed of benefit in every experience that your imposter syndrome would label as failure. What skills are you developing by facing this challenge? What opportunities have opened precisely because things didn't go according to plan? Have you noticed that the most innovative people are frequently those who have experienced the most failures? It's no coincidence. They've learned to see failure as Hill described it, a temporary event, not a person. Each time you take a risk and things don't go as expected, you're developing an essential quality that people with imposter syndrome tend to avoid: resilience in the face of uncertainty. Here's a mantra that Hill recommended repeating during moments of apparent failure. Within every adversity hides an opportunity of equal or greater value. My task is to find it. Repeat this when facing difficult situations, and you'll notice a gradual change in how you process setbacks. An additional technique is what Hill called the transmutation of negative energy. When you feel the familiar sensation of failure and doubts about yourself begin to arise, consciously redirect that intense emotional energy toward planning your next attempt. Don't repress the emotion, transform it into constructive action. The final component of this redefinition of failure is what Hill called definitive responsibility. People with imposter syndrome tend to assume all responsibility for failures, but none for successes, which they attribute to external factors. Balance this distortion by assuming appropriate responsibility. Recognize the factors that were under your control and those that weren't. Learn from the former and accept the latter. Most people with imposter syndrome live with a paralyzing fear of failure because they see it as a final judgment on their worth. When you adopt Hill's perspective that failure is a necessary event on the path to success, that fear loses its power. Each setback becomes a necessary step in your development, not proof of your being an imposter. But even with these powerful strategies for handling failures, there's another crucial aspect to completely overcoming imposter syndrome. You need to recalibrate your internal standards and how you compare yourself to others, and this will precisely be our next point. One of the most destructive characteristics of imposter syndrome is the tendency to establish perfect and unattainable standards for yourself, while assuming that others achieve their successes effortlessly. Napoleon Hill identified this pattern after interviewing hundreds of successful people and discovered something surprising. Success doesn't demand a price, it demands many prices. Everyone, even those you deeply admire, has struggled, doubted, and failed on their journey. The fundamental problem is what Hill called distorted comparison. We compare our backstage, our doubts, fears, and internal struggles with others' stage, their visible achievements, their apparent confidence, their public successes. This unfair comparison feeds the sensation of being an imposter among perfectly competent people. Have you noticed that you judge yourself by standards you wouldn't apply to anyone else? Demand from themselves a level of instant mastery they would never expect from others. If a colleague makes a mistake, you probably think it's human to err. But when you're the one making a mistake, you interpret it as confirmation of your fundamental incompetence. Hill taught that the mind becomes what it habitually thinks about. If you constantly compare yourself unfavorably with others and demand perfection from yourself, you're programming your mind for perpetual dissatisfaction. The solution begins with what he called compassionate objectivity. Learning to evaluate yourself with the same blend of honesty and understanding you would offer a good friend. The first step is to identify and question your implicit standards. Take a sheet of paper and write down the criteria you use to judge your performance in different areas of your life. Then, ask yourself, would I apply these same standards to someone I care about? Are these standards humanly achievable? Do these standards allow me to value progress or only the final result? Success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal, Hill stated. This definition is transformative for those suffering from imposter syndrome because it shifts the focus from instant perfection to continuous progress. Your worth isn't determined by having arrived at a final destination, but by being on the path consistently advancing toward your goals. A powerful practice for recalibrating your standards is what Hill called the progress record. Instead of focusing exclusively on the gap between where you are and where you want to be, which feeds the sensation of being an imposter, systematically document the distance you've traveled from where you started. This simple change in perspective can radically transform your internal dialogue. Another crucial aspect is developing what Hill called conscious individuality. People with imposter syndrome tend to constantly compare themselves with others, especially with those who seem to succeed effortlessly. This comparison is fundamentally flawed because, as Hill discovered, no two people have exactly the same experiences or opportunities. Practice the technique of constructive comparison. When you catch yourself comparing unfavorably with someone, ask yourself, what can I learn from this person? What qualities do I admire that I could develop in my own way? This transforms comparison from a source of self-deprecation to a tool for personal growth. A particularly effective exercise is what Hill called the personal definition of success. Many people with imposter syndrome operate under implicit definitions of success that they've absorbed from their families, society, or professional environment without ever questioning them. Take the time to consciously articulate what success means to you based on your authentic values and aspirations, not external expectations. Your only limitation is that which you set in your own mind, Hill taught. The perfectionist standards that feed your imposter syndrome are self-imposed limitations that you can modify. Begin by reducing the authority you've granted them by actively questioning them. Where does this standard come from? Does it serve me or limit me? Is it a genuine reflection of my values or an external imposition? Learn to celebrate what Hill called imperfect victories, those achievements that, although they don't reach the perfectionist ideal, represent significant steps in your growth. This is a powerful antidote to the all-or-nothing mentality common in those suffering from imposter syndrome. Many people who struggle with these insecurities never allow themselves to feel satisfaction in their progress because they're always looking at the next level, the next goal. Hill observed that this perpetual focus on the future robs the energy and satisfaction from the present. Practice what he called progressive gratitude, the conscious recognition and celebration of each step in your journey, however small it may seem. But even with recalibrated standards and a new relationship with failure, there's an additional factor that can completely transform your experience of imposter syndrome. You need to change your social environment and the voices that influence your mindset, and this will precisely be our next point. We are the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with. This observation from Napoleon Hill reveals one of the most powerful and often overlooked influences in imposter syndrome: your social environment. The circle of people surrounding you constantly shapes your beliefs about yourself, your internal standards, and your perception of what's possible. People with imposter syndrome are often surrounded by what Hill called toxic influences, individuals who, consciously or unconsciously, reinforce their doubts and insecurities. They can be constant critics, excessively competitive people, or even well-intentioned individuals who inadvertently feed your fears. The first question you must ask yourself is, do the people closest to me strengthen my confidence or undermine it? Hill emphasized the power of the Mastermind Alliance, a group of people committed to mutual growth and positive support. To overcome imposter syndrome, you need to deliberately create your own support alliance. People who recognize your strengths when you forget them, who offer perspective when you exaggerate your defects, and who model a healthy relationship with success and failure. The human mind is susceptible to change through repeated suggestions. This observation led Hill to understand that the conversations you're repeatedly exposed to gradually program your beliefs about yourself. If you spend time with people who constantly express doubts about themselves, who belittle themselves, or who see the world from a perspective of scarcity, you'll unconsciously absorb these patterns. A revealing exercise is what Hill called the inventory of influences. For a week, keep a record of the people you spend the most time with and how you feel after each interaction. Do you feel energized and capable, or drained and doubtful? This simple exercise often reveals surprising patterns of social influence that may be feeding your imposter syndrome. It's not about drastically eliminating people from your life, but about being strategic about the energy you allow them to have over your mindset. Hill recommended what he called selective emotional distance, the ability to be physically present with certain people while keeping your mental boundaries intact against their negativity or criticism. Have you noticed that some people particularly trigger your feelings of being an imposter? Hill called these specific activators, individuals who, due to their role in your life or similarity to significant figures from your past, have disproportionate power to activate your self-doubts. Identifying these activators is the first step to neutralizing their influence. To deal with these specific activators, use what Hill called mental rehearsal. Visualize interactions with these people where you maintain your confidence and clarity. Imagine their typical comments that usually trigger your imposter syndrome and mentally practice responses that reaffirm your worth. This mental preparation significantly reduces the emotional impact when the real encounters occur. Man is the reflection of the thoughts he has entertained during his life, Hill taught. This means that even after physically distancing yourself from negative influences, their voices can persist in your internal dialogue. It's crucial to perform what Hill called mental purification, consciously identifying internalized critical comments that aren't really yours and systematically replacing them with more balanced and compassionate perspectives. A particularly powerful component for counteracting imposter syndrome is what Hill called external validation testimonials. Save emails, notes, or positive messages you've received acknowledging your skills and contributions. In moments of intense doubt, These objective testimonials can provide a crucial counterbalance to your internal criticisms. Beyond avoiding negative influences, you need to proactively seek what Hill called authentic, inspiring models. Look for mentors or examples who not only show success, but also speak honestly about their own doubts, failures, and struggles. You'll discover that even the people you most admire have experienced imposter syndrome at some point, which normalizes your own experience. A transformative practice is what Hill called brave communication, expressing your feelings of being an imposter with trusted people. The mere act of articulating, "I feel like a fraud," often dissipates its power, especially when the other person can offer a more objective perspective on your capabilities and achievements. Association is more powerful than willpower, Hill observed. This means that surrounding yourself with people who already embody the confidence and self-acceptance you want to cultivate is more effective than trying to overcome imposter syndrome through pure determination. Actively seek friendships and professional connections with people who demonstrate a healthy relationship with their own abilities. A crucial component that Hill emphasized was growth reciprocity. Don't just seek people who support you, become a source of validation and perspective for others. Ironically, we can often clearly see the value and potential in others who struggle with the same doubts that torment us, and the act of articulating that validation reinforces our own positive beliefs. Consider creating what Hill called a personal advisory board, a small group of people you deeply trust to provide honest feedback. When imposter syndrome distorts your self-perception, these people can offer an objective evaluation, pointing out both genuine areas for improvement and strengths you tend to minimize. Power is in the present, not in the memory of the past, Hill reminded. This means that even if you've been surrounded by critical voices for years, you can start today to create a new supportive environment. Each new positive connection and each healthy boundary you establish gradually recalibrates your beliefs about yourself. The transformation of your social environment doesn't happen overnight. Hill warned about resistance to change, the initial discomfort that arises when you begin to establish boundaries with negative influences or seek new connections. This discomfort is temporary and worth going through for the mental freedom on the other side. But even the most positive social environment can't do all the work for you. To truly transcend imposter syndrome, you need to develop an action system that transforms your new beliefs into tangible results. And that will precisely be our next point. Napoleon Hill discovered something fascinating when studying the most successful people of his time. Knowledge is not power until it is organized into definite plans of action and directed toward a definite goal. This observation reveals one of the most effective strategies for overcoming imposter syndrome: developing a methodical action system that generates constant evidence against your doubts. Imposter syndrome thrives in abstraction and fades in the face of concrete evidence. When you have thoughts like, "I'm not good enough," or "I've just been lucky," these beliefs can seem irrefutable because they exist in a nebulous realm of sensations. Systematic action counteracts this vagueness with specific and measurable results. Hill taught that self-mastery begins with mastery of thought, followed by mastery of action. To apply this principle to overcoming imposter syndrome, you need to create what he called a progressive mastery plan, a system to develop your skills incrementally and documentably that directly contradicts your feelings of being an imposter. Begin by identifying a specific skill related to your area of imposture. If you feel like a fraud in your professional role, select a fundamental capacity for that role. Now design a 30-day program to systematically improve in that skill. Don't seek perfection, seek measurable progress. As Hill said, mastery doesn't come all at once, it's built step by step. The key here is daily consistency above occasional heroic efforts. Hill observed that success is built bit by bit, like a brick wall, where each brick counts. Dedicate 15 to 30 minutes daily to this deliberate practice and meticulously document your progress. This documentation will be your most powerful weapon against future episodes of doubt. Have you noticed that imposter syndrome is particularly intense when you face new challenges? Hill noticed this pattern and recommended what he called controlled expansion zones, situations that push you slightly beyond your comfort level, but not so much that they overwhelm you. Regularly integrate these small challenges into your action system. A vital component of your system should be what Hill called objective feedback. Imposter syndrome distorts your self-perception, so you need metrics and external evaluations that don't depend on your feelings. Establish clear and measurable benchmarks for your progress and seek specific feedback from reliable sources. Incorporate what Hill called systematic celebration into your process. People with imposter syndrome tend to minimize their achievements or attribute them to external factors. Counter this tendency by establishing predefined celebrations for different levels of progress, making it impossible to ignore or discount your advances. Honest analysis of past failures is the prologue to future achievements, Hill taught. Integrate into your system a structured process for analyzing setbacks. When something doesn't go as expected, document. 1. What happened objectively? 2. What worked despite the overall outcome? 3. What you'll learn from this? And 4. How you'll specifically apply that learning. This process transforms each failure into an asset for your future development. Use what Hill called strategic public commitment. When you declare your intentions to others, you create an additional level of accountability that can drive action when your internal motivation fluctuates. Carefully select to whom you make these commitments, people who will support you without judging if you need to adjust your plans. Incorporate into your system Hill's principle of preparation for opportunity. Imposter syndrome often makes you feel that you're not ready for new opportunities. Counter this by proactively identifying the skills and knowledge you would need for the next level in your path and starting to develop them now, before the opportunity presents itself. The disciplined mind is the freest, Hill observed. This paradox contains a profound truth for those suffering from imposter syndrome. The discipline of a consistent action system eventually frees your mind from the paralyzing doubts that have kept you trapped. Each day of consistent action weakens the power of your internal imposter. Implement what Hill called systematic progress reviews. Each week, month, and quarter, review your development with specific questions. What evidence have I accumulated that contradicts my doubts? What skills have I improved? What obstacles have I overcome? This regular practice creates an indisputable record of your growth that your imposter syndrome cannot ignore. A crucial aspect of your system should be what Hill called the virtuous circle. Identify how your different areas of development reinforce each other. For example, improving your communication skills can strengthen your leadership, which in turn increases your confidence in social situations. This interconnection accelerates your overall progress and multiplies the evidence against your doubts. Finally, incorporate what Hill called resilient flexibility. Your action system shouldn't be rigid but adaptive. Establish periodic reviews where you can adjust your strategies based on what you're learning about yourself, always maintaining the fundamental goal of generating systematic evidence against your imposter syndrome. Action is the real manifestation of your thoughts, Hill taught. When your daily action consistently contradicts your thoughts of imposture, eventually these thoughts must yield to the evidence. You cannot permanently feel like a fraud while producing tangible results day after day. Now that we've explored these powerful strategies for overcoming imposter syndrome, it's time to integrate them into a cohesive master plan that you can immediately implement in your life. And that's exactly what we'll do in our final point. Napoleon Hill discovered a fundamental principle after studying hundreds of extraordinarily successful people. Any goal can be achieved if it is broken down into small enough steps and consistent action is taken. This truth is especially powerful for those struggling with imposter syndrome because it provides a structure to transform a seemingly overwhelming problem into a clear path to liberation. Imposter syndrome doesn't disappear overnight. It's the result of years of mental programming, negatively interpreted experiences, and ingrained thought habits. However, with the right approach, it can be systematically dismantled until it loses its power over you. Hill expressed it perfectly. Persistence is to a man's character what carbon is to steel. To integrate everything we've learned so far, Let's create what Hill called a transformation master plan, a staggered 90-day strategy to free you from imposter syndrome. This plan combines all the techniques we've discussed in a logical progression designed to maximize your success. The first 30 days focus on what Hill called the awareness and reprogramming phase. During this period, your main focus will be identifying and beginning to transform the thought patterns that feed your imposter syndrome. Each morning, dedicate 10 minutes to your customized self-affirmations, making sure to fully feel them as you repeat them. Each night, record 3 achievements of the day in your success inventory, no matter how small they seem. Additionally, during this first phase, begin documenting your imposter triggers, specific situations, people, or thoughts that typically trigger your feelings of being an imposter. As Hill taught, self-knowledge is the basis of self-mastery. You cannot transform what you haven't clearly identified. Implement what Hill called pattern interruption, a technique to stop negative thoughts before they gain momentum. When you notice your imposter syndrome activating, consciously stop, breathe deeply, and substitute the negative thought with one of your positive affirmations. At first, this will require conscious effort, but with practice, it will become more automatic. The next 30 days constitute what Hill called the action and evidence phase. Now that you've begun to reprogram your internal dialogue, it's time to generate tangible evidence that contradicts your limiting beliefs. Select a project or specific skill related to your area of imposture and commit to working on it daily for at least 30 minutes. Meticulously document your progress, creating what Hill called an irrefutable record, objective evidence of your growth that your mind cannot dismiss. Take pictures of your work, save drafts of your projects, or measure your results with clear metrics. This documentation will become a powerful antidote to future attacks of doubt. During this second phase, also implement Hill's technique of structured visualization. Dedicate 5 minutes each morning to vividly visualize how your day would be if you weren't limited by imposter syndrome. What decisions would you make? How would you interact with others? What opportunities would you pursue? This practice creates a mental model of the person you're in the process of becoming. The final 30 days comprise what Hill called the consolidation and expansion phase. During this period, your focus will be on solidifying your new thought patterns and beginning to expand your comfort zone. Identify a significant challenge related to your area of imposture, something that would have seemed unattainable before, and break it down into small, manageable steps. Implement what Hill called the law of incremental action. You begin with steps so small that failure is virtually impossible, and gradually increase the difficulty as your confidence grows. Each small success provides additional evidence against your imposter syndrome and builds momentum for the next step. During this final phase, also incorporate Hill's technique of identity rewriting. Begin consciously describing yourself as the person you want to be, not just in your private thoughts, but in your interactions with others. As Hill taught, what you consistently affirm soon becomes your reality. Throughout this entire 90-day process, maintain what Hill called a transformation journal. Document not just your actions and achievements, but also how your relationship with imposter syndrome is changing. Specifically, note situations where you would previously have felt like a fraud, but now handle with confidence. This timeline of your transformation becomes a powerful tool for preventing future relapses. The moment of greatest danger is the moment of victory, Hill warned. As you begin to experience success in overcoming your imposter syndrome, be alert to the temptation to abandon your new practices. Complacency can allow old patterns to return. Prepare for this challenge by establishing from the beginning what Hill called maintenance habits, key practices you will continue indefinitely even after the initial 90 days. Have you noticed that many people experience temporary improvements only to return to their old patterns? Hill identified that this happens because they haven't transformed their fundamental belief structures. To ensure your change is permanent, dedicate time during your 90-day program to identifying and questioning the deeper beliefs that underpin your imposter syndrome. Do you implicitly believe that personal worth must be earned? Do you assume that success must come with effort and struggle? These fundamental beliefs need to be recognized and reconsidered. Implement what Hill called integration rituals, regular practices that reinforce your new identity. This could include a weekly review of your success inventory, monthly celebrations of your progress, or periodic conversations with your support group. These rituals anchor your new thought and behavior patterns in the structure of your daily life. Adversity reveals man to himself, Hill observed. During your 90-day process, you will inevitably face setbacks. Instead of seeing them as confirmation of your doubts, learn to interpret them as what Hill called strength tests, opportunities to demonstrate the solidity of your new mindset. Each time you handle a setback without falling into the imposter spiral, you're strengthening your new identity. As you approach the end of the 90 days, create what Hill called your liberation manifesto, a powerful statement that articulates your new relationship with your capabilities, achievements, and future potential. This document serves as an anchor during moments of temporary doubt and as a compass for your continued development. True power comes from knowing you have control over your mind, Hill taught. At the end of this 90-day process, you'll discover that imposter syndrome no longer controls your decisions, your emotions, or your perception of yourself. It's not that thoughts of doubt disappear completely, but that they've lost their power to limit you. They no longer define your identity or determine your actions. This transformation journey isn't easy. It requires commitment, consistency, and courage. As Hill reminded, strength and growth come only through continuous effort and struggle. But the prize, the freedom to live without the constant weight of doubt and fear of being discovered, is infinitely worth the effort invested. Your imposter syndrome didn't develop overnight, and its dismantling won't be instantaneous either. But with this systematic plan, you're taking control of your internal narrative and reclaiming the power that has always been yours. As Hill so eloquently expressed, whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. If you've made it this far, there's something you already know deep within your being. Imposter syndrome is not a life sentence. It's simply a thought pattern, a mental habit that can be unlearned and replaced. Feelings of imposture aren't facts about your worth or ability. They're simply sensations based on distorted interpretations of reality. Napoleon Hill dedicated his life to discovering the principles that allowed ordinary people to achieve extraordinary results. His research revealed that the fundamental difference wasn't in innate talent, circumstances, or luck, but in the person's relationship with their own thoughts. As he himself expressed, "What you hold in your mind tends to manifest in your life." Imposter syndrome thrives in secrecy and isolation. It whispers that you're the only one who struggles, that if others knew the truth, they would see you don't belong. But now you know the truth. This experience is universal. Even the people you most admire have doubted themselves at some point. The difference lies in how they respond to those doubts. From today, you have a choice. You can continue allowing imposter syndrome to direct your life from the shadows, limiting your options and robbing you of the satisfaction of your achievements. Or you can implement the strategies you've learned: powerful self-affirmations, success inventory, redefinition of failure, recalibration of standards, transformation of your social environment, and systematic action to release your true potential. Napoleon Hill discovered that most people live far below their capabilities, not for lack of talent or opportunity, but because they never took conscious control of their thoughts. As he said, "Your fears are traitors and make you lose the good you might gain by not daring to attempt." What could you achieve if you weren't constantly undermining your own efforts with doubt? What opportunities would you pursue if you didn't fear being discovered as a fraud? What contributions could you make if you fully accepted your capabilities and your worth? The challenge I pose to you is this. Decide today that you will no longer be a prisoner of imposter syndrome. Declare your independence from those limiting thoughts you never consciously chose. Begin today with one action, however small, that contradicts your critical internal voice. Write in the comments of this video, "I choose to recognize my worth and ability. From today, I commit to seeing my achievements objectively and accepting my imperfections as part of my humanity." This simple public declaration is your first step toward freedom. Your mind is the battlefield where your destiny is decided. As Hill wisely observed, what we believe, we become. When you change your beliefs about yourself, you fundamentally change what's possible in your life. There is no greater freedom than releasing yourself from the self-imposed shackles of doubt and fear. The world needs what only you can offer: your unique perspective, your particular talents, your singular vision. Imposter syndrome doesn't just rob you, it robs the world of the contributions that only you can make. As Hill expressed it, your great opportunity may be right where you are now. The decision is yours. You can continue living in the shadow of your doubts, or you can step into the light of your true potential. You can keep allowing imposter syndrome to determine your limits, or you can take control and decide for yourself how far you can go. I hope this video has given you not just information, but inspiration and practical tools to begin your journey toward liberation from imposter syndrome. If you found it valuable, share it with someone you think might benefit. Subscribe to this channel for more content that will help you develop a mindset of success and prosperity, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any video. Remember that transformation doesn't occur with knowledge alone, but with consistent action. Start implementing what you've learned today. The best time to begin freeing yourself from imposter syndrome isn't tomorrow, or next week, or when you feel more prepared. It's now, exactly where you are, with what you have at this precise moment. As Napoleon Hill said, "Don't wait. The time will never be just right. Start where you are. Use what you have. Do what you can." Your journey toward authenticity and confidence begins now.